Hello world of YouTube and welcome to my listening log update for February of 2022. I've got 8 records to talk about. I've got some really well-hyped releases for me personally and some follow-ups to records that already made a huge impact on me as well. A lot of excitement going into this month musically, so let's go ahead and get started on it. If you'd have told me that the first album I would have checked out in February was the new Animal Collective record amidst the new Mitski project, some stuff from the end of January that you still didn't get to, and the stuff on the immediate horizon, you would have dedicated your time to Skiffs, and that you would have loved it, I wouldn't have believed you. But this new Animal Collective record actually is pretty well put together. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually really love Animal Collective. I think they had a really nice sweet spot in the 2000s with Sung Tongs, Strawberry Jam, and obviously Married with a Post Pavilion. But everything post that has been a steady decline into disinterest from me. I didn't like their last couple of attempts at soundtrack work. I thought that Centipede Hurts was solid, but not nearly as good as their 3 records prior. And Painting With was just... But this new record, Skiffs, does a really good job at melding some minimalism that they've been attempting to really integrate into their sound full force in with some nice, smooth, lush, well-constructed melodies that I think create this atmosphere that is both isolating and bleak, yet bright and vibrant at the same time. And the lyrics really enhance some of those uneasy tendencies that this album has going on. You know, this is their COVID record. This is their quarantine album. This is their album about isolation. And I feel like they do accomplish it pretty admirably on here. You know, Strung With Everything really feels like a lyrical gut punch with how dark it really gets. And the fact that it just bleeds into Walker, a song that has its own level of uneasement, just enhances that vibe tenfold, while these beachy sort of Painting With adjacent vibes come in and really surround yourself in this sort of brightness that sort of soothes the darkness looming. I don't know, this record was honestly very surprising to me, and that's because I don't want to say I counted Anco out, but I really haven't liked their last couple of releases. But this is good. This is fun. This has funness that I appreciate without production that's obnoxious on top of it. This thing is so smooth and silky. You know, the movements... You know, the build-up and switch-up in the song Prester John works really well at integrating where the album was toying with just a couple songs prior with Dragon Slayer and Car Keys. You know, I like what this album has going forth in a big way. I think it's sequenced incredibly well. It's good at weaving you in and out of these different moods so well. And I feel like the guys are really channeling a great creative pocket here. I think that it's a good marriage of juxtaposing vibes, and I feel like it comes across well. This is an 8 out of 10 record for me. I don't think everything works. You know, I really like Passerby's vibe, but I feel like it doesn't bleed really well into We Go Back, and I think We Go Back is one of the songs that I kind of wish I liked more. But by the by, this record is honestly really fucking good. And I feel like if you like Animal Collective and you may have sort of pseudo-written them off, I would give this a spin. It may win you back to some degree.
Things always flock to me, it seems to be that way.
And the next album I checked out was actually a request by a longtime viewer, Handle Tag. They wanted me to tackle the newest Korn album, Requiem, an album that was already on my radar, but this just sort of pushed me to listen to it sooner than I might have later on in the year, because I liked their last album, The Nothing, a decent amount, and I thought that it was a really good follow-up to what was a solid outing with The Serenity of Suffering. And I was hoping that they would carry the energy of The Nothing into another knockout success for the band. While I don't think they completely fail with Requiem, I will say they sort of stumble a bit amidst their execution. Some of the things I do like about this record, I like that it's lean, it's very in and out, and the songs, when they do hit, leave that sort of impact that's really nice in the pocket. They have some really good grooves on here. You know, tracks like Lost in the Granger's bass groove is incredible. I think that when they do finally erupt on tracks like Start the Healing or Let the Dark Do the Rest, it really hits a good stride. And I enjoy some of the theatrics and sort of over gravitas scene on tracks like Penance to Sorrow and Hopeless and Beaten to a degree. But some of that leads to also some of the album's weaker attributes in the form of how they handle the transitions between those heavy, intense moments into the more dark, lurking, dramatic pieces. You know, I enjoy the dramatics on tracks like Penance to Sorrow and Lost in the Grandeur and Start the Healing. The lyrics really feel like they're trying to empower and pull you out of your own funk, sort of tangential to some of the moods seen on The Nothing. But I feel like the transitions between those moments, like there's a moment in Penance to Sorrow, actually, in the very beginning, when it's building up to what feels like a great drop, like what happens on Let the Dark Do the Rest, it just fades into the mist, and it leaves you kind of feeling empty-handed, like, wait a minute. Like, it's almost like if somebody's looking at you, but they're actually looking at the person behind you, so you have that sort of awkward wave experience, but in musical transition form. While I do appreciate that this album's lean, after spinning it a handful of times, there was just this feeling of emptiness. I was wishing that they would do something else or something a little more on this project, and so it left me feeling a little dry, you know? I thought that it was solid. It was still a decent outing, but when compared to The Nothing, I think that it is very much a lesser album, in my opinion. But I'm still giving it a 6 out of 10. It's very solid. It's very alright. If you like Korn, you'll like attributes of this project, I'm sure, but I just feel like it didn't hit as hard for me, personally. But I do want to take this time to say, I will be doing a Korn reformatted discography review at some point this year, so keep your ears perked up for that.
You think I'd be done by 20 now?
But there came a time where I couldn't hold it in any longer, and I had to indulge in the new Mitski project, Laurel Hell, an album that was the follow-up to, admittedly, my gateway into her catalog, Be the Cowboy. But Laurel Hell is another fantastic release from Mitski. Talking about in-and-out experiences, this record is also very tight, but Mitski does a lot of really cool things in that time span. She really uses synthetics in a great fashion on this project, like in the build-up of the opener Valentine, Texas, or throughout the groove of Working for the Knife. The drop in Heat Lightning almost sort of modernizes or transposes the style scene in trip-hop into a completely different realm. I really love a lot of the overall sonic palette of this project. I think that the jangly nature of The Only Heartbreaker is also incredible and does a great enhancement of that song's lyrical themes. I think that the lushness in the swell of Stay Soft is perfection and almost accentuates the lyrical themes in that song in kind of a hilarious way. This album is just so very well put together, and the lyrics themselves are also that same brand of just gut-punching that Mitski knows how to do so very well. I feel like there's this sort of empty, abject acceptance throughout pockets of this project that struck a really harsh core. You know, whether it's that feeling while discussing your own struggles in general, the double-edged sword that is life in Waiting for the Knife, the directness in, again, how almost hilarious it comes across in the song Stay Soft, a song that discusses the frustrations that can be seen in a romantic sense or even a sexual sense, or even the acceptance of something as simple as insomnia on Heat Lightning. That song hit me at a very personal core. I love that song, and I really like, again, Mitski's sort of songwriting touch she puts on the subject. I feel like the sequencing on this project in general is also fantastic. You know, you've got the track The Only Heartbreaker, a song that's written from the bad guy's perspective in a relationship, the one that does the dumping, bleeding right into Love Me More is just poetic excellence and could be seen as either a continuation of the narrative aspects from that song or flip from the other side of the coin, the person who's being dumped's perspective. It's incredible. And the track Should Have Been Me sees her channeling her inner Daryl Hall and John Oates perfectly. I think that the tone of that song is perfect and melds really well with the overall pockets of nostalgia that this record comes through sonically. This album is incredible. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It is fan-fucking-tastic. Of course, I was very excited for the new Author and Punisher album, Krüller. I discussed it in my albums I was excited for video. This is industrial nihilism machine. Author and Punisher, a guy that invents his own instruments or sounds that he can create on stage and collides them with these industrial and synthetic textured sonic backdrops. And one of the things I was curious about after spinning the opener Drone Carrying Dread prior to the album's release is how the sonic palette of this album would come together holistically, because while there are still loads of heavy doses of this mechanical texturing that is seen in industrial and industrial adjacent music, there was this sense of warmth in some of the synthetic tones on that track that really drew me in, but I was curious as to how they'd sound across an entire project. And I gotta be honest, this album is incredible. I really love the density and potency of that throughout all of Krüller, but I also really love how a lot of that bite vocally is dropped in vein of some really great harmony work by Tristan on this project. I think that this album is beautiful. It's not being stranded in the cold Antarctic while the robots come and find you in the cold. It's being stuck amidst the intensity of the sun. It's beautiful. And I really appreciate a lot of the melody work that's in here and how it ties into some of the more human feelings on this project. You know, there's still a bleakness here, but there's a desire to change in this project that I really fucking love. You know, there's some pain heard in Glory Box that I feel like wouldn't have been as prevalent if the soundscape wasn't as dense synthetically as it is here. You know, I appreciate a lot of the sounds on this project. I feel like a track like Maiden Star still has that immediate heaviness that you expect from somebody in the industrial scene, and the buzzing and whirring that go amidst that meld really well with the synthetics buried beneath it. I think that there is some true scale to this project that Author and Punisher harnesses incredibly well, and I feel like if you enjoy this style of music, you will enjoy this project. I think that it's incredible. I think it's so well nuanced and textured for how dense it really is. And I feel like those softer tendencies do give a good break from the normal heaviness that does creep up on here, like on Incinerator or on Blacksmith. Hell, I feel like it even pairs really well with some of the sounds on a track like Misery as well. I think that the soft synthetic tones with the sharp jabs in that also throttle in a really good pocket, and how much it loves to bury the listener in these synthetic drones and thudding mechanics. But I feel like Tristan Schoen works incredibly well in this pocket, and I feel like he created a tangential, if not more expansive experience than his last record. And I'm giving this another 9 out of 10. This is a fantastic album to drop this month. I don't like it nearly as much. I don't like it quite as much as Beastland, but I do enjoy a lot of the sounds on here, and I think that it's another great work. Anytime I spin a band like Korn, my high school heart sort of comes back out, and I get to appreciate something that I used to really spin a lot more than I do now, the older that I've gotten. And another album that kind of took me back into that place from a completely different perspective was the new Black Country New Road album, Ants From Up There, an album that is so grand in scope. There is a cinematic level scope to this album that I feel like many bands have tried to do in the past, but Black Country New Road excels in all fronts. This album is so well produced, and everything feels indebted to that cinematic feel. You know, there's an overall sheen to how the horns come in and how the brass comes in, how the strings strike, how the pianos ring out, and how the vocals melt together, whether solo or gang style, that puts it all in this same space that I feel like would only exist in like a theatrical setting. And the overall storytelling and emotional gravitas that the lyrics reach on this hit that same theatricality tenfold. This album is brilliant. You know, the album has this sense of build-up to it that flourishes out in the most pristine of manners, like on Chaos Space Marine, a song that really, again, throttles that story-driven style that was great on their first album into a much more personal feeling realm from like a bird's eye view sort of perspective. You know, a lot of that world building that I feel like great songwriters can do is done in spades on this project. You know, the almost spoken word style on Haldern also lends to that theatricality along with the imagery posted in the lyrics. I feel like the band themselves sonically are also adding to that with some of their progression, some of their note progressions, like on the loop of Chaos Space Marine, that just feels like this intricate bop. The swells on Haldern and the overall anxiety-fueled meltdown that happens in the song before bleeding into Mark's theme, the song that has this sort of warmth to it and comfort that I would akin to something like an old TV show from the 80s. The whole sonic palette of this has this vintage coat to it that doesn't sound inherently just music rooted, that I really appreciate, and I feel like the band throttles in a pocket so incredibly well on. I love the drum meltdown on Snow Globes. Again, the production sort of lends it to this bird's eye view of a meltdown happening sonically. You know, this album is incredible. The place where he inserted the blade when the chorus comes in and the vocals just have this sort of gang style to them. It wraps the listener, or at least it wrapped me and engaged me into the pain run out through it. You know, I appreciate and love this record for everything it's trying to do. And I was just flabbergasted upon immediate listen, and have continued to just feel enriched every time I spin this project. This is the type of stuff that I appreciate when bands do, but I don't feel like many bands really hit the note and the stride that this band does on this project. It is nothing short of brilliant. It's a 10 out of 10, and absolutely worth your time if you like this sort of thing.
Pen and paper, money maker, let the beat ride. Let me put you up on this nigga from the east side.
Legendary rapper Snoop Dogg is an artist that I feel like needs little to no introduction as far as a review is considered. The guy is one of the most prolific artists of our time. He's everywhere. He's doing shit with everybody. And recently, he acquired the label that helped him get started, Death Row Records. A move that I know he is extremely happy to be a part of, and he's happy to be the CEO of that label now. And that's brought up a lot in his newest album, BODR, an album that, I'll admit, I didn't go into at the highest of expectations. Mostly because, as much as I love Snoop Dogg, I don't think he's much of an album artist. He does have records that I really enjoy, by the by, but I feel like given how much content and like albums he's put out, he's got more misses than hits when we're talking about an album experience. However, while I still feel like the pitfalls that crop up on any by-the-number Snoop record do come up, the points where it shines do shine better than some of his more underwhelming releases in his discography. You know, like I said, he reinterprets the death row sort of calling card catchphrase throughout pockets of the record, to kind of showcase he's happy about that. He's got some songs that are either from a collaborative perspective, like Conflicted with Nas, or Outside the Box with a Nate Dogg feature, feel like Snoop Dogg channeling his excellence incredibly well, or having production that either suits him really well, like on Doggy Stylin', or Sandwich Bag, or the smoothness on We Don't Gotta Worry No More with Wiz Khalifa, to the batshit stuff like Curb Your Enthusiasm, one of the biggest highlights on this project, a song that samples the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme so perfectly. It equally also has pockets that just feel pretty underwhelming. You know, for as much as I love the highs on this record, tracks like Gotta Keep Pushing with T.I., or Pop Pop with DaBaby are collaborations that I don't think come together all that well. House I Built's focus on NFT hype really tunes me out of the experience. And while I think Get This Dick is funny, I think it's a weird penultimate closer with an outro song of Snoop Don't Go also feeling just like an extension of that song. The sonic palette on those tracks, phenomenal. But I would have rather the album ended on We Don't Gotta Worry No More with Wiz Khalifa, because that is a beautiful song that I think is a collaboration that comes together incredibly well. I don't know. This record, again, has some really good highs. I like it more than the last Snoop Dogg record I checked out in full, which is a record that saw him trying to capitalize on his own brand of G-Funk nostalgia. But I feel like he does it better on here when he wants to, while also embellishing some more soulful influence to a nice point on this record. I'm excited that Snoop is loving what he's putting out, because he seemingly does have a lot of passion in this project, and I'm happy that he's got Death Row. I know that's something that he's been wanting for a long time, I'm sure, and I'm happy he's finally got it. Hopefully, with this, he'll put out some more bangers on the label, because there are bangers here. It's just not as great as an album experience. It's still a 5 out of 10, though. It nets neutral because its highs and lows meet in the middle. I feel like if you like Snoop Dogg, I would definitely hear tracks like Curb Your Enthusiasm and Outside the Box. I even think that the beat on the track Jerseys in the Rafters hits pretty hard, and the game doesn't necessarily pull his punches all that much on there. It's just all in all a record that's a little underwhelming in pockets.
What if I can't put down the bottle? What if I'm gone and relapse?
Now, I feel like if you're a follower of my channel, Big KRIT is a rapper that needs little to no introduction. I'm a gigantic fan of Big KRIT's work. You guys probably already know that. I think he's one of the best rappers to come out of the South in the last 10 years. And I talked about hype for Digital Roses Don't Die, his latest record, on my albums that I'm anticipating video from last month. I gotta say, though, the pitfalls that I saw in the lead single of this So Cool do crop up more on the record in some pretty surprising ways. I like that song. I like how smooth it is. I like that it sees him dipping into a different vibe altogether. And I like that he does double down on that on this project as a whole. There's a real homage to smooth soul worship and some funk at points on here in some ways that I think smack. You know, the synth funk on Show You Right, the falsetto on Road Clean and So Cool. I feel like the hook of Just For You is great, but that pocket of the record in general sort of embodies my problems with the record, and that is that it's very brief in trying to do a lot with little actually shown off in the presentation department, because this album has this 4-part structure of all the elements sort of trying to be a symbol for a relationship, and I feel like some of that earnestness does come through lyrically, like on tracks like Would It Matter or It's Over Now. I even feel like he sort of extends that into a different realm with Generational Weighed Down, sort of reflecting on his kids and seeing if they'll end up in the same place he's at in his current relationship, and I feel like he embodies a vibe that would fit into that elemental style like on So Cool, but the sequencing on this project, and for how brief some of it is, there's some really low points in here. You know, I feel like the Earth interlude through Just For You is a jarring mess, because the Earth interlude and Come Out To Play, I feel like 2 of the weakest tracks on the record, and I feel like Just For You just sort of crops up in a very jarring instance. It's a solid song and bleeds really well into So Cool, but even after So Cool, you've got the Water interlude into Boring, another stretch that I feel like is pretty dull. It's pretty apropos that the song Boring is boring, but it is. It's a song that I appreciate the sentiment. It's saying that, like, I would rather just kind of be a normal Joe sometimes, and I appreciate that sentiment, but I feel like the execution on Boring is a little lackluster. I don't know, I really appreciate KRIT wanting to spread his wings more. You know, he tried to make a contemporary record, and KRIT is here, and that's something that I liked the more that I sat with it and did one of my favorite redacteds on. But Digital Roses Don't Die feels frustrating and a completely different beast, because I want to feel invested in what KRIT's got going on. I really want to dive into the bolder experimental shift that this record takes, but I feel like it itself doesn't go the full 9 with it. You know, I want to hear more of KRIT writing these very lush, well-produced pockets. You know, I want to hear more about what's going on lyrically in the record, but I feel like it just kind of hits these stalling points that pull me out of the experience full stop. I don't know. I wanted to like this thing more than I did, especially given how much KRIT is here has definitely warmed up to me as a project as a whole. It's still not my favorite record of KRIT's, but I feel like it is a strong outing with some great stuff that he cooked up in that era. But this album leaves me wanting so much more, and I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. I really love the production. I love when it shines, but similarly to BODR by Snoop Dogg, there's just some pockets that hit some really low lulls that I think are pretty dull. Now, the next record I listened to was